Now, as we mark 1 year since the lockdown, it's also been tough times for artists whose livelihoods have been wiped out by the COVID-19 pandemic. For some, it's been almost 4 weeks now. It's in fact into the fourth week of their staged sit-in at the National Arts Council. They're demanding answers about a 300 million rand presidential employment stimulus program. In fact, my co-anchor, Ayanda Nyati, is at the council this morning, and he joins us now live. And you've got a number of guests this morning, Ayanda, hoping to shed more light on the stimulus program, where we are now, and more importantly, where the money is.
Absolutely. Those are all incredibly critical questions, and one can only hope that we'll get the answers sooner rather than later. We're on level 3 of the building that's been at the site of the sit-down protest, as you've rightly mentioned, entering now its fourth week or so. A lot of the habitation, if you like, has been taking place in a room we're about to walk into now. Some of the artists, in fact, are already here. Many of them, I guess in some respects, treating this as their second home. This is the site where a lot of, if you like, the deliberations also, you might imagine, might have been taking place. Good morning, there they are, going about their businesses in as natural a way as you can when you know the cameras are rolling. But we've got a few of the artists, as you've rightly mentioned, who are willing to share some of their experiences, sentiments, thoughts at this time. With me now, I've got Given Taane, who is a technical engineer. He'll be speaking to us in just a moment. But let me also introduce some of our other guests. Soli Taane, that's right, who's a technical engineer. Ivan Teso is with Good TV Africa, is the director, and Given Sithole is a film producer. To all of you, let me thank you in advance for chatting to us. But let me start with you, Soli. I mean, you know, part of the sentiment you were sharing when we spoke off camera is that, you know, when artists aren't paid, that has a cascading effect on the sort of work that you need to do. Help us understand that a bit better.
I'm a lighting technician. So what happens is when the artists are not getting paid, we as technicians, we don't have work because we depend on them. We depend on musicians, we depend on dancers, we depend on everyone who's working in this industry because we are all connected. So if they don't get paid, we at lighting and sound and stage and backstage workers, we don't have work because whatever work that they do, we are the one who comes forward and help them to create lights, to create good sound, to create a background and stuff like that. So if the government or whoever, the minister, is not giving these people money, our children they starve at home. We don't have food. We have not been working for a year. So this is not acceptable because we as technicians, we are suffering. We can't host any festivals because of this COVID thing that is happening. So Manje, when you don't give these people money, what are we supposed to eat?
Really important sentiments. So if I can just get Given's thoughts on this very quickly. I mean, it's been 365 days of this lockdown. I want to get a sense from you, having had been part of this movement, what you're actually feeling like. You know, a lot of what artists do very well is elicit emotion from the audience, but very often that comes at the cost of many people forgetting how you're feeling. For a moment, let's just hone in on that.
Okay, good morning to the viewers at home and everyone. How we feel right now after more than 365 days of the lockdown, as the creative sector, we've been neglected by the government. You know, some of the artists for the past 365 days and more have not received any source of income. You know, it has been difficult for the artists to just provide a slice of bread for their families, you know. And yet, when this whole PSP was announced, we had hoped that now, at least as the creative sector, we will then be able to breathe. We will then be able to provide sugar, provide food for the families. But now, the NEC and the way how they handle these PSP funds, we are still hungry. We are still struggling as artists. We don't know how to provide for our families. We don't know how to pay our bills. You know, we still have bills to pay. Some of us are still in school, you know, to continue with our studies. We don't know how to pay our fees, our tuition fees. So how I feel right now, there are no words that can explain how I feel. You know, hence we try to demonstrate how we feel as creatives by staging this sit-in right here at the NEC building. We've been neglected by government. We've been neglected by the private sector. We've been neglected by the media itself. You know, not being able to not being able to cover what's happening here almost on a daily basis. We depend on ourselves, we depend on our social media platforms, on our Facebook pages, so that we can also be able to spread the word in terms of how the government is mistreating the artists, how the government is mistreating the creative sector as a whole. You know, for the fact that always the budget of the creative sector is always cut down every year, year in, year out. They will say we are giving the creative sector, the arts and culture department, so much money. But when it comes to disperse those funds, they will always cut it down and say, no, we have to take some money to another department, to health, to education, which simply implies that we as the creative sector, we don't need that money that much, according to government. So how we feel right now, it cannot be expressed, it cannot be explained actually in words.
Right.
Yes.
Perhaps let's also get Eva's sentiments on this, if you can just pass on the camera. The critique is not misplaced, right? Not much attention has been given to artists, the plight of artists, etc., etc. I wonder what that means for the next step for you, right? The protest has been taking place for 4 weeks now. It appears it hasn't elicited the type of response that's necessary from government. Do you envision what the next 4 weeks looks like?
You know what? Having to spend time here for like 23 days, it is emotional, it's painful. Like my previous colleague said, we don't know how we feel right now, except the anger that I can express right now. It is so painful to realize that even the government, the presidential office, the minister's office, they're actually ignoring us. So what I can say is that artists have taken upon themselves to say, we're going to take over. And if people think what we're doing is crazy, it is not crazy. We're not even campaigning for anything. So because we've been neglected, because we don't know what will be the next step, we're going to take it upon ourselves to make that next step. And that is why we are saying we're not going to leave this place until justice is done.
Absolutely. Let's speak about some of the facts of the contentions, and I guess whoever's comfortable, feel free to answer this question. 300 million rand is the figure that's been thrown around. We're actually not quite sure how much has been paid to who, how, right? Give us an idea of what you know to be the explanation from government about how we even got to this mess.
Okay, from the initial amount that was given to the NAC, it was actually, that was given to DSEC, it was 1.2 billion from Treasury to relieve and to revive also the creative sector as a whole, you know, both film and television and also the art side. So then Treasury decided to cut down the budget to 600 million, of which half of that money went back to Treasury to be able to buy the vaccines that we bought was it this year? Yes. So what happened is that the NAC was given 300 million. And out of that 300 million, they said then 100 million would be for stream 1, which is for job retention, and 200 million was for stream 2 for job creation. And it was supposed to be a stimulus package. So from that point, we as the creative sector, we then applied from October last year, you know, with the hope that we were able to revive our businesses, because we're not just creatives, we are business. We have companies that are registered, companies that are compliant with SARS, we pay our taxes. So we did apply, hoping that we'll be able to at least be able to revive some of the jobs that we have and also create some employment throughout the sector. So then the NAC, with the whole 300 million, they then took 15 million for administration work. Haven't done any administration yet, but they paid themselves 15 million out of the 300 million. Then we were left with 285 million for the artists to be dispersed in both stream 1 and stream 2 combined.
Right.
However, about two weeks ago, if I remember very well, during a portfolio committee in Parliament, then the Department of Sports and Arts and Culture then said to the portfolio committee that they've already allocated 252 million to the whole PSP at NAC, which leaves about 30-something million not accounted for. So at this point, we have about 252 million to be dispersed to all artists within both stream 1 and stream 2. And another thing is that initially we were told that it's supposed to be 25,000 for 3 months per job opportunity, which is then cut down to 10,895 for a period of 3 months.
Sure. Let me hold it there. It's a lot of money trail to be followed, especially if you're getting a sense of it from the first time. So we'll try to come back to it, but you know, what sticks out at this point at least is a desperate need at least for the transactions to be made public so that we too can follow the money trail. And that's why when we come back, we'll be in our Randburg studios where Michelle will speak to Charles Mabasa from the Arts and Culture Department, who in some respects hopefully might be able to give us some of those answers. Stay with us.